You lied to me and you used me. The words boomed across the courtroom like a bolt of lightning. Meri Brown's raw, shaking voice cut through the silence that had descended within seconds. The judge, the attorneys, the crowd, even the security officers, all halted motionless. Then the gasps followed. Whispers ran wild. Some of the reporters in the back quickly picked up their pens, while others struggled to dial phones to capture the moment. The judge struck his gavel sharply against the wood bench. Order! Order in this courtroom. But Meri wasn't done. Not by a long shot. She stood in the witness box, shoulders stiff, chest panting, fists at her sides. Her face glowed pink, half anger, half sadness, and her normally serene eyes now flamed with the heat of betrayal. On the other side of the room, Kody Brown sat quietly. Not smug. Not defensive. Just dazed. His mouth was parted slightly, but no sound emerged. For the first time, he had no control over the discussion. Next to him, Robyn Brown shifted restlessly. Her hand clamped around Kody's arm in a vice-like grip, but she remained silent. Her designer shades, indoor wear, no less, hid her eyes, but everyone in the room was aware that she was scrutinizing Meri very closely. This wasn't a courtroom. This was a battleground. The judge spoke again. "Mrs. Brown, calm down or I will hold you in contempt." Meri spun around, eyes flashing. "With all respect, Your Honor, I've been holding it back for 30 years. I believe I've earned my moment." Even the judge, a grizzled old man with decades of experience on the bench, appeared shocked. He didn't retort. Instead, he nodded deliberately and let her go on. And that's when it occurred. Meri stepped forward in the box, her voice just loud enough so that each individual in that room could sense what she experienced. "For 30 years, I stood by this man. I raised his children. I obeyed his rules. I accepted being shoved aside. I accepted second best, third best, no best at all." Her voice broke, but not out of weakness. Out of the pressure of finally speaking those memories out loud. "And when Robyn joined the family, I accepted her. I watched as Kody formally married her, because I was assured it was to protect the children. I trusted him. I let him divorce me so she could be taken care of. But now I know the real truth." She stopped. Silence. Even the pens had ceased to move. Meri inched closer, still focusing on Kody and Robyn. "You never intended to guard the family. You intended to substitute me." Kody blinked for the first time. His mouth opened as if he intended to speak, but all he could do was say, "That's not true." Meri scoffed, cold, bitter, drained. "Then why did you stop visiting my home, Kody? Why did you visit Robyn exclusively? Why did you use the family money we all contributed to pay for her nanny, her house, her lifestyle, while I fought to keep our business afloat?" She addressed Robyn next. "And you smiled at me across the dinner table, calling me sister wives, while stabbing me in the back." Robyn's face contorted. She glared in the judge's direction, as if waiting for him to intervene. But the judge remained silent, because the truth needed to be told. The audience members, court officials included, were visibly shaken. A woman in the second row swept tears from her cheeks. A man in the rear muttered, "She's telling the truth. You can sense it." Meri pulled herself up straight and scanned the room. "I gave everything to this marriage. And what did I get in return? I was discarded, humiliated, gaslit, and silenced." Her voice was a whisper now, quiet, crushing. "Do you know what it feels like to spend nights in bed, night after night, hoping your husband will come see you, and knowing he never will? To be told your value is in your submission, and when you finally shatter, you're the problem." She shook her head, now glassy-eyed. "I stayed because I believed in the family. I stayed because I thought things would get better. I stayed because I didn't know who I was without him." Then came the ultimate punch. "But now I do know who I am. I am the woman who survived all of you." Kody jumped up, angry. "Treating me like dirt. This has nothing to do with betrayal. It has to do with you never being content." Meri didn't even blink. "You're correct. I was never content. Because I was never respected. I was never loved. You discarded me like garbage the moment someone newer and prettier came along. Robyn's hand grasped Kody's, whispering something in his ear. Meri noticed and smiled, not with happiness, but with clarity. You two deserve one another. You always did. Just don't go around pretending it was about love or family or faith. It was always power and control. The judge cleared his throat, quietly but firmly. Mrs. Brown, are you done? Meri turned to him, eyes gentler now, yet no less resolute. Almost, Your Honor. She glanced back at Kody once more. Not only did you break your promises, you shattered me. But guess what? I rebuilt myself. And you're going to witness exactly how powerful I am when I'm no longer holding you up. The room fell silent once more. Not a peep, not a whisper. The judge surveyed the room, put on his glasses and spoke. Court will continue. But no one would ever forget what had transpired. Because at that moment, Meri Brown, once the quiet, submissive first wife, had evolved into something quite different. A force of truth. A storm of justice. A woman finally finding her voice. And every person in that courtroom, even Kody and Robyn, knew this wasn't over. This was only the beginning. A strained silence enveloped the courtroom, like a choking blanket. Meri Brown had just spoken the emotional equivalent of an earthquake. Now, as she sat down for a moment to compose herself, the mood was no longer merely strained. It was explosive. Kody still looked shaken. He didn't even glance her way. He sat hunched in his chair, muttering to himself, his jaw clenched. Robyn, on the other hand, had stiffened up. Her lips were pursed in a tight line, her hands folded neatly in her lap, but her knuckles were clenched white. The judge cleared his throat. Let us continue. Mrs. Brown, return to the stand. Meri stood once more, back straighter. Her voice did not scream anymore, but it was icy, cutting. Her anger had cooled into determination. Your Honor, she started. I thought my emotional pain was the price of plural marriage for years. I thought the feeling of rejection I had was spiritual punishment or individual failure. I never questioned the financial aspect of our family life because I trusted him. She faced Kody once more. I trusted you. Kody's jaw clenched. He turned away. Meri drew a breath and went on. Until I saw the numbers weren't adding up. The financial trail of betrayal. Meri's attorney stood and delivered a packet of documents to the judge, Kody's attorney, and the defense table. The courtroom fell silent. All leaned forward. This wasn't emotional anymore. This was evidence. Those are bank statements, Your Honor. Meri stated firmly. Joint accounts established for the Brown family. But during the past 6 years, almost $400,000 was diverted into a private account in Robyn's name. Whispers erupted throughout the room. Kody whispered frantically to his attorney. Robyn's complexion turned ashen. Everything was shared, Meri said, her voice shaking. That was the rule. All the wives pitched in. All costs were split. But she gestured toward Kody and Robyn. They took more than their own. And they did it behind our backs, quietly. Here's a breakdown of withdrawals in the category household expenses. But they weren't for groceries or utility bills. They were for tuition at private school, for her children, Sedona vacations, designer couches, thousands spent on clothing, spa visits. A nanny paid in full from the family account even as the rest of us were informed we couldn't afford simple repairs. Robyn opened her mouth as if to speak, but her lawyer motioned for her to stay silent. The judge looked through the documents. This is substantial, he murmured. Robyn's smile. Meri's silence. Meri's eyes welled up again, but she didn't cry. Not this time. While I was pleading with Kody to come see me once a month, while I was sobbing myself to bed in a freezing house with no heat for 2 winters, they were constructing their own little kingdom, and labeling it family. Robyn had finally said something, her words brittle. That's not fair, Meri. You don't know what we've— Meri interrupted her. Don't you dare. The room grew deadly quiet. Don't talk about fairness. Not when you had everything while the rest of us were living in scraps. You wore the ring, you had the legal title, the money, the man. And yet you smiled in my face every Sunday like we were equals. Robyn's bottom lip trembled, but Meri's face remained stone cold. I saw you turn him against me, bit by bit. You drove me insane, Robyn. You'd whisper to him behind closed doors, then rush into my arms like everything was fine. You gaslit me for years. And I believed you. The judge rapped his gavel once for silence. But nobody broke eye contact. Kody's collapse. From patriarch to puppet. Kody finally got up, slapping his hand on the defense table. Everything is turned around. I didn't take anything. I was handling the money the best way I knew how for the family. Meri glared at him. You handled it for your family. Not Janelle's, not Christine's, not Robyn's, just yours. Kody's voice broke as he attempted to speak. You withdrew, Meri. You weren't participating. Because I was shut out, Kody. She spat. Don't act as though I left you. You left me a long time before I even knew it. Robyn jumped to her feet, face flushed and eyes brimming. Why do you think you are the victim, Meri? You had a choice. You chose to keep your distance. Meri laughed cynically. You want to discuss choices, Robyn. Let's discuss your choices. You chose to isolate him. You chose to make him your puppet. And now you're upset because I finally had the guts to speak. Kody pulled Robyn's hand down. Enough, he breathed. You're making this worse. That sentence was the final nail. The judge begins to see the judge. Raise the documents once more. These books of accounts are suspicious. If the money was being redirected without being transparent, without all parties agreeing to it, then it leaves one to wonder if it was fraud in a communal financial arrangement. He addressed Robyn squarely. Mrs. Brown, you are the lawful spouse. Were you aware of these transactions? Robyn looked around frantically. Some of them possibly. But I assumed that Kody was taking care of it. I never paid that much attention. That's not true. Meri grumbled. The judge turned to Kody. And you, Mr. Brown? Kody shrugged helplessly. I thought everything was shared. I didn't mean to. You didn't mean to. Meri yelled. You didn't mean to steal from me, to reduce me financially and emotionally. You didn't mean to make me feel like I didn't even exist anymore. I was trying my best. Then your best killed me, she whispered. The crowd responds. A power shift by this point. The courtroom was no longer merely observing. It was responding. Faint head nods, soft murmurs of acknowledgement. Several in the audience even appeared visibly moved. For years the Brown family saga had unfolded in the public sphere. But on this day, in this moment, the public witnessed what had really gone down behind closed doors. Meri was not an embittered ex-wife. She was a survivor of emotional abandonment, financial betrayal, and spiritual manipulation. And her strength, standing tall while the couple who once held all the power squirmed under scrutiny, was undeniable. The judge's voice echoed like thunder. Court will take a brief recess to allow counsel to review the evidence. But before the gavel could hit wood, Kody Brown stood up like a volcano finally erupting. No, I'm not staying silent anymore. His voice shook with fury, face red and trembling. Even his lawyer attempted to grab him back by the sleeve, muttering wildly, but Kody jerked his arm away like a trapped animal. I am so sick of this story. I am not a bad guy. The courtroom came to a standstill. Reporters ceased scribbling on their notepads. The judge blinked incredulously. Meri, sitting now, gradually gazed up at the man who had been her husband, and smiled, not with happiness, but with awareness. Here we go, she breathed. Kody's meltdown begins. Kody's fists pounded the defense table. I built that family. I gave everything to each and every one of you. And this is what I receive. Public shame, accusations, deceit. Meri stood. Sit down, Kody. You're embarrassing yourself. No, he bellowed, gesturing at her. You've been poisoning the world against me for years. You and Christine and Janelle, making me out to be some monster because I didn't come crawling to your door every time you snapped your fingers. Meri's eyebrow went up. You mean every time I cried myself to sleep wondering if you still loved me? I was spread too thin. Kody thundered. His voice rang off the courtroom walls. Even Robyn winced next to him. You have no idea what it's like to juggle 4 households, 4 issues, 4 moods every day. You all turned against me. All of you. Meri's voice was steady now, icy sharp. We turned against you? Or did we simply stop tolerating your abuse? Robyn cracks under pressure. Robyn jumped up, grasping Kody's arm. Stop, Kody, please. This isn't helping. He brushed her off as if she were a child clinging to an irascible father. Don't tell me what helps. I've done better by you than anyone. You have the biggest house, the finest treatment. You're the only one who stood up for me when they all turned on me. Robyn's eyes filled with tears. And now they're bringing me down with you. The courtroom drew in its collective breath. The words tumbled out of her mouth before she knew what she'd said. Meri didn't skip a beat. Oh, so suddenly you're the victim. Must be tough living in $1 million home, while the rest of us begged for scraps of money. Robyn's voice shook. I never requested that. Kody made those choices. And you let him. Meri snapped. You let him drain the family dry for your comfort. Even the judge had to pound the gavel this time. Enough, Mr. and Mrs. Brown. Compose yourselves or I will have the courtroom cleared. The courtroom becomes a war zone. But it was already too late. The courtroom had become a live battlefield. Each word now tasted like a grenade. Do you think you're some kind of saint because you stayed quiet? Kody snapped at Meri. You catfished someone. You embarrassed me in front of the whole country. Meri's face hardened. Yes, I did. And do you know why? Because I was so isolated, I would have rather been lied to by a stranger than ignored by my own husband. Robyn gasped, covering her mouth. That's revolting, Kody grumbled. You're sick. Meri approached the witness stand. You want Twisted? Twisted is deceiving 3 women for years, leading them on as equals, all the while siphoning everything to one. She addressed the judge. Your Honor, this guy manipulated all of us, emotionally, spiritually, financially. And now that he is being exposed, he is breaking down like a kid who got caught. Public sympathy shifts. The courtroom was quiet, not out of respect, but in shock. One woman in the rear stage whispered, "She's right." Another shook her head at Kody, repulsed. The public, previously divided on sides, now sat watching the real face of Kody Brown break down. Even Kody's own lawyer stepped back, a little distance created between herself and the meltdown unfolding. Kody finally ceased yelling. He glanced about, noticing the glares, the pity, the shock, the judgment. He appeared small. I didn't mean for this to happen, he muttered. I was just trying to hold it all together. You kept it together by holding us back. Meri interrupted. You wanted us to obey you without ever giving anything back. And now that we dare to stand up, you fall apart. The final blow. Meri's mic drop moment. Meri returned to the center of the room. Her voice no longer trembled. I want the world to see what kind of man you truly are, Kody. Not the smiling dad of TLC. The man who ghosted his own wives. The man who said love should be earned, yet gave his love freely to but one woman. She was pointing her finger at Robyn. Fact is, this never was plural marriage. It was always the Robyn show. And the rest of us? We were simply props to give it an air of sanctity. Gasps again. Robyn finally broke down and cried, collapsing into her seat. Kody sat next to her, silently, defeated. The judge inhaled deeply, his voice calm but firm. This case is no longer just about financial division. I am directing a complete investigation into the allegations of asset mismanagement, possible marital fraud, and compelled silence. Meri nodded once. For the first time all day, she looked free. Aftermath of the explosion. As the judge adjourned the courtroom for the afternoon, people were filing out in shocked silence. Nobody was talking. Nobody was laughing. This wasn't reality TV anymore. This was real life. Raw, tragic, and totally unfiltered. Kody said no more. Neither did Robyn. Meri, she strode out with her head held high. Outside the courthouse, cameras popped. Reporters shouted questions. Fans waved signs of support. Meri didn't reply to any of them. She just strode through the turmoil with calm in her stride and flames in her heart. She was no longer just a former sister wife. She was a warrior who stood in front of the storm and made the storm retreat. The courtroom had barely recovered from the screaming match that left Kody shattered, Robyn in tears, and Meri standing tall. The judge called for a 10-minute recess, but no one moved. Tension sat thick in the air. Meri's lawyer whispered something into her ear. She nodded slowly, her expression unreadable now, calm, focused, but almost too quiet. As court resumed, everyone leaned in. Something was coming. Everyone could feel it. Your Honor, Meri's lawyer stood up to speak. Before we get to final statements, my client has one more piece of evidence to share. The judge seemed fatigued, but nodded. Proceed. Meri got up, her hands clutching one printed page. No tears, No shaking. This time she was ice cold. This changes everything. I did not want to go so far. Meri responded, her tone low but determined. I thought I could be dignified about moving on. But they pushed me into it. She approached the evidence table and gave the judge a sheet of paper and a flash drive. This is a voicemail from Robyn Brown, 2 years ago. She left it for a mutual friend. My friend recently gave it to me. And now, the court needs to hear it. The judge raised an eyebrow. And what does it say? Meri didn't flinch. The truth. Her words. Her plan. Her intentions from the beginning. With the press of a button, courtroom speakers crackled to life. The whole room, Robyn and Kody included, fell silent, and then Robyn's voice became heard in the air. Robyn's voicemail. The smoking gun. Look, the other wives aren't going to last. They're unhappy. Kody's over them. Even if he won't admit it. We just have to wait them out. When Meri and Janelle finally crack, it'll be just us. I know it's cold, but we deserve it. We've built something real. They're still stuck in the past. I'm not concerned. He's already choosing me in every way that counts. Gasp was heard from the back of the room. Someone's pen hit the floor. After Christine walked out, I knew it was working. Now we just need to allow Meri to continue to beat herself up, attempting to remain. She'll eventually quit. And when she quits, it'll finally be our life. The one that we deserve. The voicemail cut off in a cold, unaffected laugh. Then, nothing. And nothing so heavy. You could hear hearts shattering. Reaction. Public shock. Kody's collapse. Kody glared at the floor, clearly shocked. His fingers trembled against the table. He didn't even glance in Robyn's direction. Her hands were still clapped over her mouth, her eyes wide with hysteria. Meri faced the courtroom. There it is. Her voice. Her scheme. All along, while we wept and prayed, and held hope, she was scheming. Not just to steal him, but to ruin the rest of us in the process. The judge sat still for a moment, then gradually turned to Robyn. Mrs. Brown, do you not admit that the voice on that recording is yours? Robyn's mouth opened, but nothing happened. Her attorney whispered something hastily. She merely nodded, tears welling in her eyes. Yes, she whispered at last. It's mine. But it was taken out of context. You can't remove context from betrayal. Meri bit out. You can't finagle your way out of intent. Judge's observation. Game changer ruling. The judge took off his glasses, massaging the bridge of his nose. This tape alters the tenor of these proceedings markedly. What started as a marital argument and financial complaint now reveals potential willful manipulation, calculated estrangement, and potential financial coercion. He leaned forward, his tone firm. Now this court shall investigate misappropriation of funds, charges of emotional abuse, and intent to defraud communal property, in the name of shared plural marriage. A murmur swept through the gallery. The security guard in the back even moved forward, visibly shocked. Robyn breaks down. I didn't mean to. At last Robyn lost it. I didn't mean it to go this far. She wept. I was trying to protect what Kody and I had. I was afraid the others would take him away. Meri crossed her arms. You weren't afraid. You were greedy. And you won. Robyn collapsed into her seat, sobbing hysterically. Kody turned his face aside from her. Kody, say something. Robyn pleaded. Tell them I didn't mean it like that. But Kody didn't stir. He was statue-like now. White, rigid, totally shattered. Meri's voice came again. Steady. He won't stand up for you. Because now he finally realizes who you really are. Kody's revelation. Too little. Too late. Kody gazed at Meri. For the first time that day, perhaps the first time in years, he met her eye. I didn't know. She said that. He growled. I didn't know. Meri's voice didn't soften. You didn't want to know. That's the difference. He kept his eyes down again, as though decades of delusion had at last broken into shards too painful to touch. I thought I was saving the family, he said softly. I thought I was doing the right thing. Meri's tone was firm and final. You didn't save the family, Kody. You killed it. Crowd reactions. Justice for Meri. From the back of the room came a murmur. She's right. Another voice. Justice for Meri. The judge banged the gavel again. This is a court of law. Let's keep order. But the truth couldn't be unspoken now.
Not after what everyone had heard. Mary's pain had a voice now, and so did the proof. The section's closing moments. As the judge wrapped up the day's proceedings, he made one final statement. Because of the seriousness of the new evidence, this court will meet in 2 weeks for a complete evidentiary hearing. Investigators will be assigned immediately. Criminal charges will be lodged on anyone who attempts to alter records,
Accounts or evidence. The courtroom emptied. Journalists scrambled out, calling their editors. A media storm was brewing. Kody sat frozen. Robyn wept uncontrollably. Meri? She just walked out. Alone, but more powerful than ever before. No longer the throwaway wife. No longer quiet. Now she was the one with all the cards. The courtroom was packed again. This time, not with hushed whispers of gossip, but with expectation. Every seat was occupied. Cameras filled the hallway. The world was watching. 2 weeks had transpired since the voicemail shook the courtroom and dismantled the painstakingly built image of Robyn and Kody Brown. And now, it was time for the verdict. Meri sat in the front row, no longer by herself. Janelle sat next to her. Even Christine flew in to testify. The sister wives who previously shared suffering now shared authority. Kody and Robyn, though, sat apart. She would not look at him. He was empty-looking. A man who had lost everything and still didn't grasp how it all went down. The judge's ruling, Judge Ramsey, pushed his glasses up on the bridge of his nose and cleared his throat. After reading the financial statements, phone records, and individual statements, this court has made its ruling on the claims presented by Meri Brown. The room was quiet. Such court holds that Meri Brown was systematically manipulated and emotionally coerced by a pattern of isolation and financial domination. Robyn Brown's voicemail illustrates overt intent to alienate and destroy plural unity for selfish purposes. Robyn winced. In addition, the judge went on. Kody Brown's inaction to interfere or allow equitable access to communal assets constitutes neglect and financial abandonment. Thus, he hesitated. This court rules in the case of Meri Brown. Gasps. Cheers. Reporters fumbled for their phones. She will receive a full financial settlement, 35% of the communal assets, full ownership of her bed and breakfast, back pay for her portion of family income withheld during separation, and the right to publish her story without interference. Meri's lips parted in disbelief. But it wasn't over yet. Kody and Robyn faced the consequences. The judge then turned toward Kody and Robyn. As for possible evidence of fraud, this court is referring the case to state prosecutors for further investigation. If charges are brought, Mr. and Mrs. Brown could face criminal investigation. Robyn gasped. This is crazy. I didn't save it. The judge interrupted. The court has heard enough. Kody sat, resting his head in his hands, while Meri stood proudly. For once, he had no control. Meri's walk of triumph. Outside the courthouse, a crowd of reporters and fans gathered. Meri emerged into the sunlight, met with cheers. Meri, do you have a statement? Will you write a book? How do you feel now that justice is served? She smiled. Not the shattered smile of the past, but one full of strength. I am free, she said. For years I pleaded to be seen. Today I was, not as a sister wife, not as someone outside, but as a woman who stood for her truth. Sisterhood restored. Janelle hugged her tight. You did it, she breathed. You finally did it. Christine watched, with tears in her eyes. You brought down the entire illusion. It was never real, but now the world knows. The 3 women did it together. Not in robes, not in coordinated jewelry, not as submissive wives, but as survivors. What next? A journalist asked. Meri turned around. Now I live for me, and perhaps assist other women to do the same. Kody's downfall. Kody skipped out the side door. No cameras trailed behind him. No reporters called out his name. Having been a proud father of 18 and one of the stars of the popular reality show, now he was only a man who stood by and watched it all come crumbling down, because he did not listen sooner. Robyn clutched him, mascara streaming, her reputation ruined. The favorite wife now resembled a villain in her own tale. Kody remained silent. He knew now
The family he manipulated with charm and shame for decades was gone. And it wasn't returning. The new beginning at home. Meri lit a candle on her bed and breakfast. It was quiet. No cameras. No chaos. Only the sound of wind through leaves. She gazed out the window, speaking softly to herself. I lost a marriage, but I found myself. She reached for her journal. A pen hovered above the page. Chapter 1. The day I spoke my truth. And so she started to write. Not of Kody. Not of pain. But of power. Her own.